first of all, I just want to go through a few ground rules of our talk show today. I wanted to make sure that everybody feels safe in here and that we've kind of gone through kind of key ground rules that make someone feel safe. And the first thing is healthy interaction. If I feel that there's any form of abuse or unkindness, I will simply just remove people, because I think it's only fair and it's the kindest thing to do, out of respect and out of allowing people to have a safe environment to speak about what they feel, or raise things that have been very difficult for them to talk about till today, maybe even. So they require an environment where they can feel that it's okay for them to talk about things that are dear to their heart, or maybe even if it is emotional, that they can actually speak without feeling put down or shut down. And I think those are the things I want to kind of avoid. So the condescending, sarcasm kind of points of views. And I simply won't engage. I will just remove people, because I think if I start to get into conversation, that's justifying unkindness. And I think that's not really required. So respect everybody's differences, agree to disagree. But what I would love is for everybody to have an open mind today. So we can only learn through open-minded. And if we're closed to other people's perspectives, then we can't actually move and change things. So if we open ourselves up to being curious and asking questions, we can start to see things slightly differently, which allows us to actually move things on and move and change our life and our lifestyle where we felt stuck, or maybe we felt unhappy in a certain situation and felt we had no choice. We can move to choice when we open our mind to educating ourselves to something greater. I would like everybody to refrain from any personal attacks, from if something is raised. If you feel unhappy, I'm happy to hear about it outside of this arena. I'm happy for you to put it in the chat privately. I'm happy for you to put it in the Q&A. But what I don't want is people to feel attacked by their points of views and what they have to say today. So here's a bit about me. I mean, who am I? A lot of you are aware of me and have worked with me in the past, and some of you are brand new. So welcome to you, and absolutely honored that you've chosen to be here today. I'm a qualified therapist, and I've been a counsellor for approximately over 20 years now. I started my journey from a young age, and I worked in various organisations. I worked with domestic violence, I've worked with sexual abuse, I've worked in substance misuse, I've worked with children in secondary primary schools. I've worked in the NHS IAPT, which is for anxiety and depression, step 3. And currently I am actually a wellbeing delivery manager for Relate and NHS. And I'm managing 2 projects at the moment with the NHS on step 3. And I'm CBT trained. I've delved into being a UC Reiki master, quantum Reiki master. I've also gone on a journey of learning about theta healing, which is a form of brainwave, which allows us to go into our subconscious mind and release thought patterns and belief patterns that we're stuck in, and actually replace them with positive ones. And I also have delved into access consciousness bars, because we have 32 points on our head, which allow us to release almost like a charge that hold on to thoughts and feelings and emotions. It releases pressure to come to a place of calmness and actually reset our mind and come to a place of ease. I'm also highly intuitive. I used to meditate from a young age, so I've brought that philosophy into all elements of my work. I love manifesting. I do a lot of work around manifesting, mindset, coaching people, doing a lot of educational programs, online courses and classes, and I'm a well-being fanatic, really. That's my key. You know, I love to learn about how our body works, how our mind works, and how we can connect the two and really move from things, traumas and pains that we've been through, and how do we come out the other end to live a life of more ease and joy. And At the bottom is my website address. And if you want to know more about me, just go to the About Me page and you can read upon me there. Okay, because I don't want to go too much about that. So I want to get into healer or con artist, and what does that mean? What is that? The question mark was healer or con artist. What is a healer and what is a con artist? And you know, the first thing I always go to is the dictionary. And people say, why do I do that? Because where do we formulate our ideas of words? Where do we formulate our understanding of things? Well, we use language. We use language to understand things, and we use language to interpret things. But we also use language then to interpret our experiences with other people and our experiences in life. And I'm hoping that a lot of you are aware of you know, the idea of our thoughts and feelings become our experiences, or our thought and feelings build our reality. Well, this is why it's really important to question things. And how much do we question, and how much do we actually just allow to just grow up with? So, you know, what does that mean? What does that mean when we are brought up in an environment where we aren't allowed to question something, or we assume this is truth, this is it, this is how life is? Well, what happens is we actually never really learn to understand why it is that way. We just go with it blindly. And I think for me, that's something that formulates our perspective and our experiences in life. So how many of you can relate to that? How many of you can actually relate to not asking a question, being born into something and just assuming that that's normal and actually the way it is for you? I know that when I was growing up, I was brought up in a Sikh family, and my family had quite particular ways, and they thought living a certain way of life and in a particular cultural way was the norm way, and that is the way that you build your life, and that's what makes you a good person, that's what makes you a humble person, and that's what makes you a kind person. So the question mark around those analogies and those things weren't brought to light. But the other thing was interesting was I always found that in that was the idea that can we question this? Are we allowed to question this? And if I do, what will happen? And I mean, how much fear were we brought up with the idea of questioning things? And some of us have had safe environments to make those questions, ask those questions. And some of us have actually not been allowed to ask those questions because it was shut down either through a tone of voice, or through violence, or through just simply being told a derogatory way about yourself, that you're silly, you're stupid, be quiet. And I think, you know, that then sets the foundation for us to actually not know what is working and what actually is real for us. And what I mean by that is everybody's point of view or everybody's life doesn't have to function exactly the same. And the choices that we make along the way won't be exactly the same, because we're different, and it's okay to be different. But yet we're brought up to be exactly the same. And I think that's where it becomes a bit sticky. So I guess this talk show is really where I want to like look at that, talk about that, question that, and really reflect on, you know, is that something that works for me? No, it's not about does it work for all of us, because for some of you it will work. And that doesn't mean it's wrong either. It's just a place for you to start to understand if you are feeling like life isn't where you want it to be, or life isn't exactly how you planned it to be, or you don't feel quite happy with something, then this is the place for you to question what's creating that for you. What is it that you're stuck in? What mindset or thought or belief system is actually holding you back and keeping you locked in a way that you can't move forward because you've deemed it as normal and you've deemed it as the right way, not because you questioned it, not because you researched on it, not because you went down and delved into it, but because you were just born into it. And I think that that can really lead to a lot of our mental health, loss of self-esteem, and loss of confidence. And I don't know if any of you can relate to that. And I know some people are shouting out to me they can. But, you know, do tell me how you feel about that. And I'd love to hear about your experience with that. And then the other thing is, when we were brought up with the idea of a healer, now this is the real thing, when we were brought up with the idea of healer, what were you brought up with? What thought pattern were you brought up with? I know for me, when I was young, for me, a healer was always somebody who was a religious person, somebody who was practicing the religious practice in a strict manner, and somebody who deemed this religion to be the religion to enlightenment, but also the pathway to being a good person, the right kind of person in society. And in that is a lot of preempted ideas already existing. In that is I will trust somebody who's been given that status. As a child, I would trust somebody with that status because I was deemed to think that's a healer and deemed to think that somebody like that can help me feel better. And I think that took me down a very slippery road. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, that was a very, very slippery road. There was no question in my consciousness. Now, my subconscious mind had thoughts, and my consciousness was, there was a lot of unconsciousness for sure with this particular thing. So when I looked it up in the dictionary, it actually says it's about a spiritual healer, medium, someone who mends and repairs you in a way, so repairs something, and also someone who elevates distress and anguish. Someone says, I was told that elders know everything and you can't question their choices, and also anyone who is religious, regardless of their life experience. That's it. What in that are we being told? And I'm going to share a story with you, actually, and it is a story that is dear to me that I don't share often, but I do feel it's very important in this arena. Because I was deemed with that point of view when I was growing up, I trusted those people. And what happened was, one of those people, well, quite a lot of those people, but one in particular I'm going to talk about, actually used that as a position of authority and power to try to actually rape me and lock me in a house. Now, that's the question that would never have been risen had, I been able to question that in the first place. Would I make that choice? And the answer is no. Now, I was clever enough to get out of that situation. However, that might have not been the case for other women who he would have treated exactly the same, because I would not have been just the special one. And that's really important to remember. And I think for me, that's the difference between a healer and a con artist for me. A healer does not have a strict way that they deem upon others. It's not something that should occur in that way. I think that here's the question. I'm wondering, isn't a healer someone who actually resonates with the energy of unconditional love? Isn't a healer somebody who reaches out and gives you knowledge, gives you techniques, gives you tools, and guides you to your own spiritual being, your own healing mechanism inside you? Isn't a healer somebody who has the ability to channel that love, that unconditional love, and receive you in a way that you've never been received, to allow you to start to see yourself as whole in comparison to the way you have been told you are, which is maybe there's something wrong with you, or you're not doing it right, or you are broken because you've had an experience. I feel like people say they are healers, but do it with ego. However, as you stated, unconditional love is what healer is. Yes, ego is about, and I love that actually. Thank you for sharing that, because that takes me to, isn't a healer somebody who's able to not want power over you, to actually allow you to be power? Isn't a healer someone who guides you to your own power? Sometimes our friends are healers as well when they listen and support us. Absolutely. They have those key qualities. A healer is meant to be humble and would want you to shine in the best way you can, guide you. Exactly. A healer's job is not about identifying that you need fixing, because there's nothing to fix in you, and that's really important for you to hold. If anything today, I want you to take that away. There's nothing in you that requires fixing. There's nothing in you that is broken. There's nothing in you that is damaged. There is no such thing as being damaged. And I know we can feel it. I'm not going to take that away from you, that if you feel it, I appreciate people who've been through things will feel that way. But we feel that way because society deems us to be damaged. Society judges us to be that, not because we are, but because they have got an ego. Society has an ego that they impose on us, that if we haven't got everything ticked and perfect, that then we are broken, and then we are not, someone who can carry ourselves well. But is that really true? An experience doesn't mean you have to deem yourself as broken and unfixable, because there's nothing to fix. And I want to get that really, really through today. How can we identify a con artist? Well, a con artist is interested in having power over you. So what does that look like? What does that feel like? Well, they rarely actually give you any tools or techniques, and they always guide you towards one pathway. So it's a strict pathway. I want you to do this, and then you will attain this. Healer can help you feel safe and protective. Yeah, thank you for that. That's, in my experience, if I hadn't been in contact with a healer who saw past my presenting symptoms and had the patience and unconditional love to guide me through them, I would not have been able to shine as the truth of who I am. Thank you for that. And I guess that is it. If you find a healer that can give you that is gifting you that, then you are able to find you. That's what healing really is about. Healing is about being authentic to you. I love that question. I'm going to hold on to that one. What if you are your own con artist? I'm going to hold on to that one. Only my thoughts, I know, because, there's no right and wrong. It's just thoughts, yeah? So but I love that question. And I think that, being, let's actually look at what con artist is before we actually ask that question. So how do we identify a con artist? Well, we identify them because they are about control, they are about power, they are about gaslighting you, they are about abusing you. So there's clear signs. So the more you learn about what those are, and I mean breaking them down in their really entirety, really breaking them down, you will see a con artist from area. It's not just always about ego, it's about it's what's their agenda. A con artist has an agenda. That agenda is not about elevating you, it's about elevating themselves. Okay. And I'm not saying that, it means if you're a healer, you shouldn't get paid for your role, or if you're a healer, you should be mistreated. That's not what I'm saying. I'm going to come back to that. How does, it's really important to a true healer and their value will shine. So their value, when I'm doing the work I do, and I'm working with people on a one-to-one or in a group, I'm really, really grateful that, the universe also has my back for me, because I'm working with the universe to support others. It's not just about that. And therefore, I'm able to receive, and that receiving comes, people do actually admire and appreciate and are willing to gift. Money in its entirety is unconditional love. So the more unconditional love you're willing to receive, the more money will be around you. But people will actually have that, want to actually pay you for your services, because they know it's helping them, and they're paying you for your time, and there's a difference. Okay. How do you encourage someone who wants healing but won't take the steps and are going around in unhealthy cycles? It's about timing. You can't take someone to healing. Healing is something that I think the more you learn about it, the more they will choose it when they're ready. And I think that, if somebody isn't ready, then that's part of their healing journey. And that's really important to remember. If somebody isn't ready, it's because their journey to where you want them to be isn't necessarily where they want to be, and where they want to be is exactly where they are right now. Even if they're saying they don't want to be there, deep down, when we don't want to be somewhere, and this is the brilliance of a healer can only guide you, but you are the key to your own healing. And that's really important to remember. You are the key to your own healing. I can guide you. I can gift you information, perspective. I can even say to you, take you in a meditative state and say to you, are you ready to receive this? Are you ready to release this? But you, as the being, will decide yes or no. I can bring that activation to you and say, here you are, let's do it. But you are the one who will receive it, absorb it, and say, yes, I'm ready for this. So if somebody isn't ready to heal, or what you see as healing, they're not ready to heal. And again, I think that healing for everybody looks very different from what my version of healing may be very different from your version of healing, and that's okay too. We all have different ways to get to where we want to go, which is ultimately to feel have a peace of mind, be happy, and have a sense of joy and being present in our world. And how many people are seeking love outside of them and waiting for somebody to love them, but never actually choosing to be loved for themselves? And I think that is what healing is about. When you are going to choose to be connected to your being of being unconditional love. And when you be that, you don't seek it. It gravitates towards you and you receive it, because it still goes back to our willingness to receive something. It's amazing how much we kick back rather than receive. a con artist shouldn't make you second doubt you. Tell me a little bit more about that. Is there an example of where you feel that somebody's made you second guess yourself? And what is that? And what does that look like for you? And so it's about understanding that a healer is not someone who's going to fix you. They're going to help you to find who you are, and the healing still ultimately comes from you. You are what's healing you. You are empowering you, okay? And their journey is to support you in that. So they will be gifting you information that you may not have realized in a way that you never realized. So you're able to break something down and receive it from a different perspective. And it goes back to language again. If I don't open you up to new language, how do you know how to see something differently? If I don't show you that there's a different perspective, how can you know what perspective there is? If you've never felt what unconditional love looks like, how can you actually know it exists? Well, the more you're around someone who's a healer, the more you will feel different, and that will allow you to elevate and change the way you are. So what if you are your own con artist? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. I think that, you know, when we're talking about being our own con artist, which is, let's go back to the dictionary version of that, and I'm going to say it as it is, a person who cheats or tricks others by persuading them to believe something that is not true. Absolutely. How many times do we do that to ourselves? How much are you, like you said, a con artist shouldn't make you second doubt you. Well, how much are you doing that to you as well? How much are we conning ourselves? How much are we cheating ourselves and tricking ourselves and persuading ourselves to believe something that is not true? When you sabotage your own healing, refuse to do what is good and healthy for yourself. Yeah. Well, the reason why you would refuse to do something good or healthy for yourself, and it goes back to someone who asked, you know, how do I help someone who doesn't want healing? It goes back to the fact that you're not ready to actually love you. You're not ready to go past something that you feel is, it's almost like a value and a comfort blanket. So it carries the comfort of you being where you are. So you have the reason to stay as you are. But it also then continues the pattern of you staying where you are. I mean, what would help you to come out of it is when you have had enough of being there. I think when you have had enough of feeling the way you feel, that's what actually then, as I say, takes you to the place of, right, I'm ready to come out of this now because this isn't working for me. But I think even with that, there's a journey, isn't there? I mean, how many of us have found ourselves in that place, and it takes us quite a while to work out that we matter, you know, that you've got to matter to you before you matter to anybody else. But we want other people to make us feel we matter before we matter to ourselves. And I think that's where it gets a little bit confusing for us, because the journey actually is we have to learn to know that we matter to ourselves, and then we will receive and know that we matter to the world. Like how often can I say to you, you matter? But how many excuses would you give me right now? How do you know me? You don't know me. How can you tell me I matter? But I can tell you, you matter. I can tell you within an instant that your health, your well-being matter. Why? Because you're here and you have a gift of life, and that life matters, and you being in that life matters. And there's a lot of people in your world who do see you as someone who is important. Whether you see that or not is a choice. It doesn't have to be the partner you wanting to make you matter. It doesn't have to be the mother that you want to make you feel mattered. It could be a friend. It could be a work colleague. It could be a child. It could be me right here, right now, saying you matter. But are you willing to receive that? And I think that, when we're not, we are drawn to the healer that is the con artist and continues the pattern of abuse. And it's really important to remember this, that somebody who actually cares about people wouldn't actually be promoting one-way streets, because there is no such thing as a one-way street to being enlightened, to being more of who you are. Who you are is going to be unique. I will never be you and you will never be me. What I have to gift is going to be very different from what you have to gift, but your life will always matter. And until you are ready to know you matter, that's the focal point, the tipping point. Somebody asked, what's the difference? Let me know if you feel that that question has been answered for you, or if you feel a little bit more, I'm thinking about this a bit differently now. And the next question was, why have con artists become a trend for people? Why have they become a trend? Because everybody wants to believe that it's really it is a simple tool to being you, but they don't want to look at themselves. They want to get there without looking at themselves. Okay, and there's a difference. Like, a lot of people actually don't want to look at themselves in truth, like really look at themselves and say, right, okay, I was watching something before I came on, and there's a lady, she was talking about people who come on her page and are telling her that she's overweight or that she's ugly or she's, and she said, thank you for that, but your words don't touch me. And I tell you what, I was a CUNT like that. And then I decided to let go of being that. I judged other people because I was unhappy with myself. And I judged other people, and I decided I don't want to do that anymore. And at that point, I chose not to be that. And when you're ready to stop being that, you will be. So your words don't touch me. And so, that's just it in a nutshell, isn't it? Like, people don't want to reflect on the behavior that is within them, because they think that if they look at that behavior, that means they're a terrible person. They don't realize the question here is, if I can actually choose to let go of that behavior, I can choose to educate myself and choose a different pathway. I can choose to change that behavior. I can choose to enlighten myself and understand that why I'm doing that behavior is because I don't feel good about myself, and work on the things I don't feel good about myself on. So for example, if I'm not happy with my weight, I can actually go out and do something about it, or I can actually look at myself differently in the mirror and actually choose to respect the way I look, because I'm not going to release weight by abusing myself and telling myself unkind words. However, if I tell myself kind words, I probably will be more motivated and more drawn to actually doing something about it. So it's really that people want that little fluffy kind of, I meditated and then I became a great person. No. Meditation is part of it, but there's more to it than that. It's a way of being. Your inner being has to mirror that too. This was my first Valentine's. I was actually loved myself. Although there isn't a specific person in my life, it is so nice just to be without the drastic thing in my life. Healing is a difficult situation, which is why it takes longer than using substances. You are amazing. Oh, thank you. It's amazing. Yeah, so we have to move with and understand ourselves. We have to understand why we're behaving the way we're behaving. That releases us from wanting to go to someone who controls us or just tells us, do A and you'll get B. And it's not real, because what I will do to create love for me will be different from what you will do to create love for you. However, I may allow you may come to a place of understanding that better for how it works for you in the process of your healing journey. And then the other question is, why do healers hide? Why do healers hide? Right. That's a brilliant question. Why do actual real healers hide? I think everybody has a personal kind of journey with that. So I can't say for everybody how it is, but I can talk from my experience as a healer. I think the reason why I hid as a healer is because when I was young, it was clear that I had abilities. I was able to channel energy. I could bring through loved ones quite easily, and I was able to know people were going to pass away before they're going to pass away. And I remember saying that to my parent, one of my mom, and she was absolutely horrified and upset with me, because I gave specific times and I told her who and when. And I think for some people that can be quite scary, because it's like, you're weird, like stop now. And then that's kind of led into, eventually it led me going to these kind of what you call religious people and stuff, but to fix me, but there was nothing to fix. There's don't get me wrong, my parents are beautiful, actually very caring, loving people, but I'm talking about the way it's about the way they were brought up, and that's what that's about. So I don't carry anger or animosity, because my mom's actually a beautiful person and a healer herself. Actually, she has natural ability herself, but one of the things that she said often was, I don't want to do this because people become demanding and people become clingy and people want you to fix them and people want this, and their perception of what these abilities mean can be quite overwhelming. And I think some healers hide for that reason. And I think another reason is actually a lot of healers are expected then to make it their life purpose, to a point where they, and I've been on this end too, where I've made it my life purpose, but I've not been able to put food on my own table. I've been helping others by losing the ability to actually to provide for my home. And I think that, I think that along that journey, it's about letting go of those points of views, that, actually, if I'm a healer, it doesn't mean that I have to sacrifice my livelihood, or I can't allow myself to earn a living from this, because actually it is an amazing gift. And I would say to you that, because I know that you've reflected, this question is that it's personal to you and you wanted to acknowledge that. So if you feel like you're a healer who's hiding, maybe ask yourself, who would you feel would actually reject you as a healer, that you feel frightened would reject you as a healer and make you feel like you're a bad person because you're a healer. And I think, if you've got people who are misusing healing, pretending to be healers, but actually are just narcissistic people dressed up as healers, it's very difficult for real healers to be seen. And we as healers then have to change the way we deliver, because people find it hard to trust us because of the people who are misusing those abilities and misusing those gifts. And I think that if God gives you a gift, and I mean, I think that, it's meant to be of service in a way that is kind and caring for the person on the receiving end. So really reflect on that. The penny has dropped for you. Okay, that's brilliant. So yeah, so it is really, really important to kind of reflect on that. So I think it's been a journey for me to be openly say I am a healer, because as a therapist and healing, that could be seen as a conflict, but actually it's not about using it in that way, because healing and therapy actually do the same thing. We actually empower people, and we do use our intuition to guide our clients towards something that is kind and caring for themselves. So how do you know when you are healed or don't require to be healed by a healer? Right. Healing, for me, I think it's what you deem healing, isn't it? For me, healing is the ability to, I don't see it as healing, I see it as unlearning. For me, healing is the unlearning of everything that's suppressed me and suppressed who I am and suppressed me from being the greater I am and shining as me in the world, because of all of the ways I've been taught to be less and told to be less of a person. Okay, so does healing ever stop? I think that there's two elements. There's healing, and then you're saying when you stop seeing a healer. Well, healing in itself will always continue for you, because if you want to be greater in yourself, it's not healing that you're doing. You're actually choosing to find you more and more and empower you more and more and be your more powerhouse more and more, so that you can be at a place where you feel that when situations arise in your life, or situations, people, events arise in your life, you're able to navigate through them in a way that is healthy, navigate through them in a way that keeps your well-being, you know, up, heavily leveled constantly. You know, you're feeling like good about you. You're always able to kind of come to a place of allow yourself to have a moment where you feel down, but work through it. Then, you know, your journey with yourself is always going to be one that's going to be that. If you see it as part of you being you in the world every single day. Yeah. So there's that aspect. But seeing a healer, I think I have to honestly say that I do healing and I see somebody regularly too. Sometimes I see them after a month. Sometimes I talk to them after 2-3 months. It depends, because for me, I think that life sometimes brings things to the surface that I would like to shed and move on from all the time. So for me, it's like an ongoing thing. But that may not be for you. You may feel like you don't want to do that. You want to do it differently. And that's okay too. Because, like, you know, it's got to be personal to your niche, your want and your desire of being you, you know. And I think that you're going to find that for yourself. You know, I know people who see me and then they don't see me for years, and then they come back and say, now something's going in my world and I need to kind of work through this. And then others I've seen, their life's great, they do things, they've taken on the tools, techniques, but they only tap in here and there for different courses or different things, like this talk show, for example. And that's okay too. And I think there's no specific answer to that. That's my thing with that, because I think everybody is different and everybody's understanding and need is different in life, and they have to go with that. So maybe because you've asked that question, is there something that you want for you and that you deem as being healed? So what is it that you want to fix that doesn't actually require fixing? What is it in yourself that you would like, that you feel you're not actually grasping? Does that make sense? Let me know if that kind of answers your question, or if you feel like, you want me to maybe talk a little bit more about something else. So that's that question. So those are like the key questions that people asked. Now I'm going to open it up to you guys. Is there anything else that anybody would like to ask on that? Is there anything that's popped up for you that you want to kind of share? While you're doing that, I can talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I'm going to be doing soon, actually. I hope this kind of answers the question. So we've looked at, does a healer cure disease and heal injuries? I think that it is possible for healers to have that ability if hands-on healing. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced hands-on healing. I think, when a healer is working on themselves and is able to kind of become the vessel of unconditional love, I do feel I have witnessed and seen injuries and illnesses actually be healed. I personally have helped others heal injuries and diseases, but it also depends on the person if they're wanting to heal as well. So again, it's a combination of an ability from the healer, but also the person who's actually being healed, how much they want to heal. And if you bring the two combinations together, I do feel it's possible to achieve that. But if somebody is wanting healing to just pass over in a less painful and more peaceful way, that can occur too. And I think sometimes people find that very difficult about healing, because as a healer, you don't force someone to continue in life, but you don't force them to, you don't pull them to stay. You help them towards what's going to be kinder on them. And I have had an experience where there was a young lady who, she always stays strong in my head. She had been through a lot, and her family came to me because she was in a coma, and she'd been misusing substances. And she had a little beautiful young daughter, and I remember her family coming to me, please come, she's in a coma, please help us. And I did. I went and I did healing. I held her hand and I did the healing. I did it from a distance. And when I spoke to her soul said, my physical body is not gonna repair, I can't do this now. And I knew that, but she said, can you let my soul pass on with ease? But also it was like, just send the healing to her daughter, that her daughter will be taken care of, really. And that was the healing for that lady. But then on the other hand, there was a gentleman who recently I actually helped, and he was actually had gone into a coma due to COVID, and after a few healings, he actually healed, and he chose to heal completely. And his family are very thankful because he chose to come, to be with us. And I think it really depends on that person. Okay, Jazz would like to come on. So I think Jazz, you can unmute. Are you unmuted?
Hey, Pam, how are you?
Hi there.
Awesome. Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm loving this show. It's amazing. Good insight.
Yeah. So is there anything that you feel like has come up for you?
Yes, there is one thing.
Okay.
How do you let go if you really love someone, in the sense of they were in your past, but
Yeah.
they mean a lot to you as well, but you feel like it's healthy for you to let them go? Yeah. Or is it okay to continue loving them?
I think I don't think that love is something that stops. There's a lot of people that I do not have in my world, but I love them very, very much. But I don't have them in my world because they're not healthy for me.
Mm.
But I will never stop loving them, and I will never stop caring for them. But I know that having them in my world is not healthy for me. and it's
mm,
going to stop me from being me. And because they bring a lot of drama to my world, they bring a lot of lies, and I'm constantly having to kind of clear my name with them rather than actually get on with the things that I need to get on with. So the kindest thing that I can do in that situation is to not um to not have them in my world. But I can, loving them isn't something that you stop doing. So I would say to you that if you really love somebody, and can I ask, do you feel that this person is unhealthy for you to have in your world?
well, weirdly enough, I wouldn't say no, but I think just due to my mental state and stuff, I know if I get wrapped with
Mm,
that person, I know it will just go from, 0 to 100% quickly, which is,
mm,
why I felt I had to keep the distance.
yeah.
But it wasn't out of hate or anything. It was more for my benefit.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is I'm on my own healing journey right now,
Mhm.
and that if I'm involved with somebody, I'm going to not be in a space to be able to be in the relationship with them.
It,
Would you say that?
it would be more sense to me like I know if I do let them in, I'll get emotionally
Mm,
involved quite quickly. And I've gone to sort of a grounded state now, and
yeah.
I don't want that grounded state to become ungrounded.
Yes, so that's what I mean. Like you're on your journey right now, and you feel like you're in a space now. But if you let them back into your world, that space might not be the way you've worked so hard to get it to, for example. So in that situation, I would say to you that, you know, you have to really work on what your fears are, and work on what is stopping you from being in this relationship, and really understand that first for yourself before you choose to make you know, so that you can be at ease with the decision that you've made. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think that the more you understand, like get to kind of really get to the grips and get to the core of that for yourself, the
Mm,
easier it will be to come to terms with the decision that you've made. And I think that sometimes if that information is missing, it can still feel like we're in, one foot out
yeah,
feeling. And I think that, that in itself is a process that we go through. I don't think that there's a hard, like, right, I've
mm,
left this relationship. I know it, I love them, but I can't be there. But you
mm,
might find that if someone is a part of your world and is healthy for you, you'll find that they will kind of grow with you and still come back into your world, because with the growth with you.
okay.
um but if they're not, what will happen is you will grow, and you will always have a special place for them, but you grow into a relationship that is better for you. Okay. And they do too, because it's also about them as well. So you may have feelings, but they may have a different journey as well, because they may have
Yeah,
their
yeah.
own healing process to go through, as this relationship has broken down, and the reasons and the mechanisms that are for them. So they've got their own process to go through. And I think that when you come to
Mm,
that stage, that understanding, I think that that decision then becomes ease for you. And you're then able to kind of, what I call, move to the next stage of opening a new chapter in your life. But I think that that's a process. And I think there's no fixed way of doing it.
yeah. No, thanks for that. Yeah, I think for me, I'm accepting it. It's took quite a while,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing half hate, which makes things much easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not even having control over the person to be in my life, for example.
Mm,
And yeah, it's just seeing what really happens, to be honest. Maybe that's why, in terms of self love, was a big thing for me.
yeah.
And I think just being my age as well, like I'm not in a rush to be in a certain relationship. But I guess, whatever happens, happens. But yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
I want to commend you actually, because I think a lot of people go into relationships, know that they need healing for themselves, but continue in it and
Yeah.
continue to cause that, um, that disharmony for the other person in that relationship. So the fact that you're able to, like, say, right, I actually need to do this for me. And then if at the end of that, maybe we end up together, maybe we don't, that
Mm,
is a sign of true love in
mm,
itself. But where that ends, it's like we can't have a fixed kind of, it has to be we end up together, because I think people's
yeah.
journeys, as you grow, you don't know how you're going to grow and evolve. And as that person grows and evolves, they don't know how they're going to grow and evolve. So
Yeah.
it's like you may become different people that don't connect. And that connection that you originally had may be a very, very different connection when you're grown.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm. Just to be mindful of that too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I will. Yeah, but you're doing awesome work, and this was amazing talk show. And yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jazz. Is there anybody else who would like to come up? I'll share my screen to the next bit then, sorry, just to make sure. But if anybody wants to, just please do raise your hand, because I'd love to hear from some of you. I'd love to have you on. We've kind of covered, I feel like, we've looked at lots of different things around healing and con artists. I hope that people have been able to kind of relate to that. So one of the things I want to talk about is some of the things that I am going to be doing around my work, around healing, that are coming up. If you feel drawn to joining, you can do. The first is I'm going to start my meditation classes again. And I know a lot of you have been saying to me, Pam, when are you going to do your meditation classes? We used to love your meditation classes. So I finally have got my head together, got some dates together, and I'm actually going to start it again. And I'm going to be doing it virtually. I wanted to time it with the new moon and the full moon. And you probably ask me why, but because when we have a new moon, our energy levels rise to kind of clear things, move things on, and also create new things in our life. So like we can create the new, if we want to expand our money growth, or want to expand our work growth, or want to expand our love growth, it's a really good time to do a meditation. And I do feel like the universe and the energies around us really support that. So that's partially, that's the one reason. And why on a full moon? The full moon, if you notice, our energy levels are always on the energy of grieving around the full moon, because we're releasing a lot of things. So I would like to do it in a gentle way through the meditation. So if you're interested in joining, you can drop me a text, or you can drop me a DM me. I think, if you go on my website, my telephone number is there, or if you just want to DM me and ask me for my number, that's fine. I'm happy to kind of add you onto my WhatsApp kind of broadcast group. If you want to be part of that, just give me a shout. And the first one's going to be on the 13th of March. So I thought it was great. It was a good idea to start with the new moon, because the new moon is where we want to be really working on bringing in things into our world. And then the 28th is going to be the full moon, where I'll be starting it. And then it will be every fortnight. So I will time it with the new moon and the full moon. So each meditation class, I will let you know when the next one is, so that and if you want to join. Now, the next part of what I'm going to be doing is going to like around business, money, acumen, activation. It's a 2-part series. Why? Because I think money is actually unconditional love. And I think right now, business and money is a big theme right now with COVID and everything. And I think that, it's a great time to really look at elevating these energies. I'm going to be talking more about money and gender in my next talk show. So I feel it will tie in with that. And I'll talk more about the course then. But if you are interested, DM me and you can join. So my next talk show is going to be on Sunday, the 14th of March at 8 p.m. And we're going to look at money versus gender. Now, money versus gender to me is, you know, I want to look at what are our preempt ideas around women and success, money with women and success, and then also the idea of where men have been kind of been given the you've got to be the successful person, but sometimes actually it might be the woman who's meant to be the successful person in the relationship, but she holds back because of these preempt ideas, and the husband may be a brilliant person to actually do the things that the woman doesn't like doing in the home. You know, but we've really got these preempt ideas about who should be doing what. And I think that because in energy we're male and female, we have to really look at all angles really, so that we can release ourselves from anything that's holding us back from success. So I want to talk about it more, but I want to like hear about your, you know, what's been going, like what's your version, and how do you see yourself with money? And you know, have you always had knowledge around money, or was money, getting your head around money, a big thing? And I know that I was brought up very in a Pacific way with money, so I've got quite a lot of stories to tell you about that. I hope you've all enjoyed the show, and I hope you've taken something from the show, or even brought up questions for you. If it has, that's great, because questions is where it leads you to greater. So thank you so much. I really appreciate every single one of you, and I hope that you do join me next time, and also let other people know about it so they can join too. And please bring your questions forward for next time already, because I'll be looking into them and happily talk about everything that's coming up for you. So I love you all. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of you. Take care. Bye.